Imagine this, you're in the middle of a vast, open field, the sun beating down. You're surrounded by thousands of people, maybe 5,000 men, not even counting women and children. Everyone's come from miles around, drawn by the words of one extraordinary teacher. You've been listening all day, captivated, but now your stomach is rumbling. You look around, and you realize you're not the only one. A sea of hungry faces stretches as far as you can see. There's no town nearby, no market, no food stalls. A sense of unease starts to ripple through the crowd. What are we going to do? This is the scene that sets the stage for one of the most incredible events ever recorded. It's a story found in all four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which tells us just how significant it was. It's the story of feeding the multitudes, but it's so much more than just a miracle about food. It's a profound lesson in faith, abundance, and the power of starting with what you have, no matter how small it seems. Let's dive into the details. Jesus had been teaching and healing people all day. As evening approached, his disciples, the practical ones in the group, came to him with a very real problem. They said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away, so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." It was a logical suggestion. They assessed the situation: huge crowd, no food, getting dark. Their solution was simple: disperse. Let everyone fend for themselves. But Jesus had a different idea. His response must have stunned them. He looked at his disciples and said, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." Can you imagine their reaction? You can almost hear them thinking, "Us? Give them something to eat? Are you serious? We're just a small group of guys. Look at this crowd. It would take a fortune to feed them all, and we're in the middle of nowhere." Philip, one of the disciples, actually did the math. He pointed out that even 8 months' wages wouldn't be enough to buy even a small bite for everyone. The problem seemed insurmountable. The disciples were looking at the situation through the lens of scarcity, of limitation. They saw what they lacked. But Jesus operates on a different level. He wasn't focused on the lack. He was about to teach them a lesson about abundance that would echo through centuries. He asked them a simple question: "What do you have?" It's a question he often asks us, isn't it? When we're faced with an impossible task, we list all the things we don't have. We don't have enough time, enough money, enough talent, enough resources. But Jesus redirects our focus. He asks, "Okay, but what asterisk do you have?" So the disciples took inventory. They searched among the massive crowd and found not much. Andrew, another disciple, came back with the report. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish." He almost says it apologetically, adding, "But how far will they go among so many? 5 loaves and 2 fish. A kid's lunch." It was laughably, ridiculously small compared to the need. In the face of 5,000 hungry men, plus their families, it was practically nothing. This is the crucial point of the story. The miracle didn't start with a warehouse full of bread. It started with something utterly insignificant. This is where faith kicks in. The disciples saw the boy's lunch as a symbol of their inadequacy. Jesus saw it as a seed of possibility. He didn't dismiss it. He didn't laugh. He said, "Bring them here to me." Then he gave another instruction that must have seemed strange: have the people sit down. He had them organize into groups of 50s and 100s on the green grass. This wasn't just for crowd control, it was an act of faith and order. He was preparing them to receive a gift, creating an atmosphere of expectation and peace, turning a chaotic, hungry mob into an organized, expectant congregation. Once everyone was seated, Jesus took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. And then he did something simple, yet profound. He looked up to heaven, gave thanks, and broke the bread. This act of gratitude is so important. He didn't complain about how little he had. He gave thanks for it. He blessed the little that was there, acknowledging God as the source of all provision. By giving thanks, he was shifting the atmosphere from one of scarcity to one of gratitude and abundance. He was modeling for his disciples, and for all of us, that gratitude unlocks miracles. Then, he gave the bread and fish to his disciples to distribute. And here's where the impossible happened. The disciples started handing out the food. They'd give some to one group, turn back to their baskets, and find there was still more. They went to the next group, and the next, and the food just didn't run out. The 5 loaves and 2 fish weren't just divided, they were multiplied. Every single person in that massive crowd ate, and they didn't just get a tiny crumb to tide them over. The scriptures say they all ate and were satisfied. They ate until they were full. Think about that for a moment. Thousands of people, all full and content, from a single boy's lunch. The sheer scale of it is mind-boggling. But the story doesn't end there. Jesus, ever the teacher, had one more lesson to impart. When everyone had finished eating, he told his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." This wasn't about being frugal. It was a demonstration. So the disciples went around and collected the leftovers. And what they gathered was even more astonishing than the meal itself. They filled 12 baskets with the broken pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. 12 baskets. They started with a handful of food that could barely fit in one basket, fed a crowd of thousands, and ended up with 12 full baskets of leftovers. One basket for each of the disciples who had initially doubted. It was a tangible, undeniable sign of overwhelming abundance. The provision wasn't just enough, it was more than enough. There was overflow. So, what does this ancient story mean for us today, living in a world that often feels defined by scarcity and lack? The lessons are incredibly relevant. First, it teaches us to start where we are, with what we have. We all have our 5 loaves and 2 fish, or small talents, our limited resources, our humble offerings. It's easy to look at them and think, this is nothing. This can't possibly make a difference. But Jesus shows us that when we offer a little to him, he can multiply it in ways we can't imagine. Your small act of kindness, your modest donation, your limited time in God's hands, it can become a feast. Second, the story is a powerful reminder about gratitude. Before the miracle, Jesus gave thanks. Gratitude shifts our perspective from what we lack to what we have. It opens our hearts to receive more and acknowledges that everything we have is a gift. When we live with a grateful heart, we position ourselves to see and experience miracles. And finally, it's a story about God's abundant provision. The disciples worried about not having enough, but Jesus demonstrated that with God, there is always more than enough. The 12 baskets of leftovers are a beautiful symbol of this truth. He doesn't just meet our needs, he blesses us with overflow. This isn't just about physical food. It's about his provision of peace, of joy, of strength, of forgiveness. Whatever we need, his supply is limitless. The story of the feeding of the multitudes is more than just a historical account of a miracle. It's an invitation. It's an invitation to bring our meager resources to God, to trust in his power to multiply, to live with gratitude, and to rest in the knowledge of his overflowing, never-ending abundance. The same power that turned a boy's lunch into a feast for thousands is still at work today, ready to turn our not enough into more than enough. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. If this story resonated with you, I'd love it if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that explores these timeless truths. See you next time.